Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan of On Purpose Media, where we have good conversations with good people, and any conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So this week, we get to welcome none other than Lori Tschohl to the show. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. Lori is no stranger to running a business, and I've had lots of conversations with business owners over the years, and of course, everyone says I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've done this and I've done that, but Lori has lived it. She's gone from burgers to Bengals to pipes, running McDonald's franchises successfully, to then getting bored after selling a $10 million franchise group of multiple different restaurants there with McDonald's. You can only drink so many margaritas. So then Lori decided to then get back into business and started a Pandora store as well, running that, crushed that, did extremely well there, to then wanting to partner with her brother to open up Eagle Mechanical up in the Northwest, which was solely focused on commercial for a long time and then introduced in residential, and is now running a $1.5 million residential HVAC business in addition to the commercial side. And they are absolutely crushing it up in Port Ludlow in the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, not the city. So welcome so much, Lori, to the show. Everyone, please sit back, relax, pour yourself a drink, and please enjoy responsibly.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
All right. Welcome, Lori.
We're going to try that new intro out to see how that goes, mainly because we don't like re-recording and editing things. So now hopefully that's just going to exist live for Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. So that's the theory, in case anybody's wondering.
And we'll just have to edit out that part of Thaddeus talking. So
No, never.
Lori, thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers.
Thank you. Hey, cheers. Pleasure
Cheers.
to be here joining you, gentlemen.
I know you're taking a break from wine to sip some whiskey with us, so we appreciate that. Some Canadian whiskey, we might add.
Canadian.
There we go. Right there. Love it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? Obviously going from McDonald's to Pandora to now HVAC. But what was it truly about HVAC that really attracted you to it, and what you've created now with Eagle Mechanical and your brother?
Sure. I've had a very interesting journey, and I kind of came up with my burgers to Bengals to pipes plan on life experiences, because people would say to me, how did you get into this industry? Or the typical, hey, what's your story? Like everybody has a story. And they'd start hearing my story and they were scratching their head like, how did you get into HVAC? So I started with McDonald's, and I had been with them as a franchisee. I was a corporate employee. I was fortunate enough to purchase my own franchise, and ended up working a little McDonald's franchise co-branded out in Eastern Washington, and said, oh my gosh, I need something way bigger than this, and put myself out there. I had a choice to go to Buffalo, New York, or Fairbanks, Alaska. And I said, weather. And I think in hindsight, I probably should have taken Fairbanks, because I think I probably would still be up there, because I love Alaska. I ended up going for Buffalo, and that kind of started my journey as a franchisee. And so, I mean, I have a whole list of things I can discuss about McDonald's, but ending up in the HVAC business was almost by accident. My brother has been in this industry now over 43 years. And I was just amazed at not only was he working so hard, and when I say he didn't seem to be getting anywhere, it's more of that technician's mentality. It's not like, hey, I want to run a business. It was a lot of work hard, make good money. And I'm like, oh, come on. With all my business experience, we know we can get you a so much better life. And as we're getting a lot older in our years, I'm like, you can't be doing this till you're 80. Now, he'll disagree with me. He thinks he will be. He'll be out doing 4-inch gas underground piping at 80, but I'm trying to, save him a little bit here. So that's kind of where that HVAC journey started. But it took me a lot of business to get there. And after I had sold all my McDonald's franchises, I talked to him and said, hey, come on, let me help you do this. He still has a technician's mentality. I am the 100% owner. I am the business person here, but I could not do this business without his technical skills and his ability to pull in a lot of the commercial work.
Right.
I just thought of the line from Jerry Maguire, help me, help you.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what it was. I mean, you see somebody who you truly love work so hard, you want to help them. So that's kind of how I stumbled in. And oh man, with COVID and state of the economy, probably one of the best things I have ever done, except for I probably should have stayed retired.
That's hard to do though, when it's in your blood to like. Here's the thing that really troubles me about a lot of business owners is that they're really not entrepreneurs. It's not something that they were really meant to do. They stumbled into it because they thought it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't the right thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if there were far more true entrepreneurs that were running businesses, there'd be a lot less of the stat about, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. I think there'd be a lot less of that if people really truly tuned in with who it is that they are. Well, when you're retired for only 2 years and then you just need to get back into business, that says a lot about what it is that you were meant to do. And when you see the business growth that you had, 1 at McDonald's, 2 at Pandora, and then 3 now with Eagle Mechanical, and the culture that you've built around the team, the growth that you've put into the team, I think it's really impressive and a testament to what it is that you were truly meant to do and impact people.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What I have found is that, I don't sit still real good. And I did a lot of traveling. I have traveled the world. I have been so fortunate. I've been to all 7 continents. And I don't know if you've ever taken a list. There's like about 196 countries out there. And I'm like, okay, check it off. I'm like, wow, I'm up to about 149. But when you look at that, one of the reasons why I was able to do that was in my McDonald's history. You take a look at every situation and it's no different in HVAC, and you think, okay, how am I going to make this work? So I'm going to backtrack a little bit with McDonald's, only because I purchased a travel plaza built on the New York State Thruway. So New York State Thruway owns this huge, humongous, built over I-90 eastbound, westbound. If you go to Cleveland, if you go to New York City, you are going underneath that travel plaza. So I walked into it and I looked at it and I said, this is all real estate to me. So I have a McDonald's restaurant doing probably $1.8 to $2 million, just the restaurant. So as we built and developed all that real estate, I put in a coffee shop. I put in it was called Lavazza Pizza, or was the coffee shop, and then Sandella's Pizza, Pasta, Panini. So what we did is then we in fact grew that to about 6 to 7 million. While I was operating businesses in inner city Buffalo, which that's a whole nother program for another day, in empowerment zones. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're up against. But when I took a look at that, it was all of the things that I had learned that I had to take different people and figure out how I could staff this. So in December, we might do 150,000 in sales at this McDonald's restaurant. In May, we started ramping up. By June, we were doing $1 million a month. So how do you go from 40 employees up to 200? So we used international staffing. And this is where my passion for this travel and hitting so many countries and having the ability to say, what is my business need now? How am I going to make this work? This is how we made it work. We used J1 visas, traveled, and we produced people to come in to this environment, processes, procedures, training. You take somebody who speaks a little bit of English and we turned it around, and next thing we knew, they were working on your front counter, making hamburgers, those type of things. So it's really what you do with what you have within your business.
No, that's amazing. That thought of what does my business need and how am I going to make this work? Being a person of possibility, not limitations, right?
Correct.
I absolutely love that idea. And I know a few McDonald's owners here. They were customers of mine when I sold Cutco knives. And if there's anything that I've learned from them and from, watching the movie, The Founder of Ray Kroc and how he started it, the thing that McDonald's is masterful at is I don't care if you're in Buffalo, New York, or you're in Seattle, Washington, or on the completely other side of the world. A Big Mac is a Big Mac, right? And the systems and the procedures that they put in place are absolutely masterful. So I'm curious, how did your experience with McDonald's really help set you up with Eagle Mechanical to make sure that you implement those same SOPs within this business?
So we're still, I like to say we're work in progress because we have not been in this industry that long, and I have not been in this industry. So my entire list of checklists, and I do ride-alongs, and I'm going out on jobs. Now, I absolutely can help put in a hot water tank. I swear I can put in a mini split by myself, but I don't know if I'm going to commission it up there for you. So I go to customers' homes and they're like, well, who's this person? I'm like, hey, I'm just here to help and support. And I always say, you want my guys to do the install. So having learned that, then what I try to do is I try to perfect some of that, knowing that if I have a checklist and we go out from the time we park our vehicle in the driveway to how we address the customer with, PPE now and, lay out the job. And it's a constant training process. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create our own, what I would call an operations and training manual. And there are so many things out there. You really don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we partner up with Service Nation Alliance, Service Roundtable. They have tons of great information. And one of the ways we're trying to do this is every one of my employees, we're asking them to sit down and write out what it is they specifically do. If you're a customer service rep, we want you to write out everything so my dispatcher can sit in your seat and understand what you do. Are we there yet? No, but we're working on that constantly so that we can keep those processes, procedures, and make it easy for new folks that want to join us because we're in this huge growth spurt. If I had capacity, watch out.
Amazing. And when you go back to the, what does your business need now? And you're doing ride-alongs as an owner to be able to, and I mean, you didn't come from the HVAC side of the business. You came from the business owner side of the business. So you've immersed yourself in the different tenets of it to understand the full process from a higher level. And you're looking at things at a different level than your techs would look at it because you're looking at it from the customer's point of view and from the business point of view. And how do you get that better? I know, Evan, you did a video. We went to the Service Hero event down in Las Vegas. And when Ishmael Valdez was talking, he said one of the things that he now does in his business at his level is he finds the problems. He inserts himself in there to fix the problems. That's what his business has become. But if you don't do these ride-alongs, if you don't insert yourself into different parts of your business, you may never find those things. So it's a super smart way to tackle it and go after it. And then you're also building out the systems and procedures, right? That's, I know, with McDonald's is a key thing. It's systematized. Why do you think a Big Mac tastes the same pretty much anywhere you go? Well, it's because it's the process, right? And if you can replicate that process with your new hires and your new team, you're going to have an even better level of success because now everything's controlled. Now you can say, this is what you do when you show up to a house. This is the manual you follow. This is the checklist. When you get out of your vehicle, hey, did you do all these things? And you can really create that repetition in the customer experience, which is another thing, right? I mean, people look for a customer experience. So it sounds like you obviously you've customer service as your forefront. So let's dive into the customer experience side of things. How have you built out a Disney level experience for your customers and for your clients?
We're customer obsessed. That's the best way to put it. So I go back, and again, I can tie a lot back into McDonald's where we had three main principles: customer obsessed, better together, and commitment to lead. And it's funny because I would be working in one of my restaurants, and I would be even in like this little McDonald's uniform, like manager's uniform, but people would automatically pick me out. I'd say, well, how did you know I was the owner? And they could tell exactly, how I was talking or how I was directing. And back in those days, I mean, I run for the drive-through and cook on the grill. I knew everything. I could fix the HVAC up on the roof if, something happened. And so absolutely immersed myself in that business, but I've always been customer focused to the point where I'm sure I drive some of my employees crazy because I will take phones on the weekends. You can call me 8 o'clock on a Sunday night and I'll pick up that phone and they'll go like, wow, we didn't know anybody was going to be here, or why are you working so hard? And to me, it's not work. It's a pleasure if I can help a customer. And when we get into this type of business, we're about the comfort. If you don't have hot water, if you don't have heat, not so much AC in the Northwest, but man, we're working on it. Because if you look at the statistics, we're way down there on the AC level. But we look at it as that's our role. It's in our mission statement. It's in our vision statement. We're trying to provide a superior customer service. And I like to offer that every single time. So a customer obsession, better together, just means as a team. I had a staff meeting yesterday. I wanted to hear from them. Tell me what it is that we can make your experience better. A lot of it was training. So, okay, we're going to get on that. You want more training? That's what we're going to do. And then commitment to lead. We try to lead all the time, and especially community-wise. I do Habitat for Humanity, Builders Association, between Women in HVACR, which is a phenomenal organization for women in this industry, advisory groups. So I think if we just stay customer obsessed, and I also take a look at, you hear people say the customer is always right. I'm like, I'm a little bit, not that I want to say it doesn't always work, but what I try to do is I try to satisfy them. When I have to take care of a customer complaint, they have probably gone to 3 or 4 different levels. And I do that specifically. I never say, let me take care of this because I want the customer to feel like I can go to the next level. Like you always say like, oh, give me the supervisor. Or when they get to me, that's it. There is no other person that's going to satisfy them. And I will do everything I can. But the little trick there is give them options. If you can give them a list of options, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you can satisfy them. And always apologize, whether you're right or wrong.
Just think you're a Canadian. You got to picture that you're a Canadian. And you just say sorry for everything.
Yeah.
And then you're guaranteed to make people feel good. No.
Well, that's empathy, right? You look at that, and I know empathy is something that I have to constantly work on because I'm not necessarily the most empathetic individual. Sympathetic, yes. Empathetic, no. And that's just one of my weaknesses that I'm aware of. So if you know that, you can be empathetic towards them. Now you're in their shoes. Now they see you as an equal. Now you can have that conversation just by simply saying, hey, I'm sorry that you felt that way. Or I'm sorry that this happened. You brought themselves down into that level. It's like sales. It's the objection cycle for sales, but only dealing with customers.
Yep.
Great point.
Well, and one other thing that I'm going to point out that you said, Lori, that I absolutely loved and I wrote down was you asking your staff, what can we do to make your experience better? That is such a key thing because people think, again, to use your wording, that customer service is all about, making sure that the customer feels happy. And I think customer service, to the highest level starts with your staff, because the more that you take care of them, the better they're going to take care of the customer. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're trying to develop a culture that, one, they're very comfortable. I have to be really careful with not being, I call it domineering. Anybody that's taken the DISC test, I am like right out of the box. I'm the only one in the company. We've got everybody else that is like, oh, we're the supporter. I'm like, I'm the get it done gal. And so I really have to work on a lot of my empathy, because I step back and I'm like, oh my God, okay, we just got to get this done. And so I am constantly asking them, what is it we can do? Because you're so right. If they're not happy, it's totally reflective on the experience they give their customer. Whether it's my CSR, get a smile on your voice when you talk to that customer. I used to do that at McDonald's. When you say, hi, welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order, please? It was like, you better have a smile on your voice, because people can hear it. And so, a lot of that stuff kind of goes back and forth. The other thing is I just really want to talk about is, with that culture, with the people. I had a young man who was out on a gas piping job out of state. Two of my guys were down there. His dog became very ill. It was instantly, what do we have to do? We drove him to the Boise airport. We put him on a flight. He's never been on a commercial flight before, which is kind of unusual, but he hadn't been. And we got him through, like, don't take your knives with you. You go for security.
They don't like that.
Flew him home and just said, hey, you do what you need to do. He showed up for a meeting on Tuesday morning, and he had this basket of muffins, and so grateful. That gratitude, I would have paid any price for. And thank God the dog, $2,000 later, is okay. So we'll make sure he gets a lot of overtime this week.
Right.
No, but that's so true. I mean, if that's weighing on you and you're going out on a call and a customer is angry at you while you're doing that call, it's going to show in how you respond to them. You might be more short-tempered with them, right? Like, I mean, I do that to my kids all the time. If I had a tough day at work, and I'm bringing that home more often than not. And it's unfortunate. I have to check myself on that a lot of times, but that's reality. We're human, and it happens at work where personal life overlaps into that. So amazing that you were able to check in with them and figure out, well, this is an issue. We need to help you with this. Let's fix that first. And then when he comes back, of course, that gratitude is huge. That's beautiful. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I want to flip into talking about the stuff that you're doing to lead women within the trades right now. But I think a great transition into that is our random question generator. So our favorite part of the show, where we ask a random question that has nothing to do with anything and is just always a good time. So we got 3 here pulled up for you. So A, B, or C, which would you prefer, Lori?
Oh, I don't see it.
Oh, no, we're going to ask it to you. So we don't put it on the screen. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So I couldn't choose when I was pulling. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. And I'm like, oh, what else is there? I'm like, oh, that's a good one. It was literally like 3 in a row that I got. I'm like, all right, let's roll. Let's give you the choice.
So A, B, or C, which would you prefer, Lori?
A.
All right. I figured you'd be an A person.
There you go.
If humanity was put on trial by an advanced race of aliens, how would you defend humanity and argue for its continued existence?
That's deep. All right. That one was less like, I'm hoping she kind of does and doesn't choose A, both at the same time.
Oh, thanks. So if humanity was on trial, that's a really challenging one in this day and age.
Right?
But I would absolutely defend. And when I think of humanity, I think of everybody on this planet. And when I take a look at, this is where my travel experience come in, because when I've been to so many third world countries, when I look at what's going out there, I would be defending in terms of people and the conditions they live in, and the poverty and the discrimination that so many people are felt. So I don't know what kind of trial lawyer I'd be, but man, I'd be up there fighting for them.
Well, go ahead, bud.
No, I was going to say, I mean, and something that I wrote down earlier in when you're talking about, the countries that you visited on that. And, I myself, I've been, not nearly as many countries as you have. I wish, but I've done, a traveling in my time, and you go to those third world countries and you see those things. But I found when I did backpacking that it changed my outlook and my perception on how I see life and how I interact and how I move forward with things. And I'm glad that I learned that when I was 25. So all the traveling that you've done, what have you learned from traveling, and how can that apply to running your business?
Well, I think traveling just opens up your eyes to just so many different things. And I know the best thing is when I come back to the United States, and I know you guys are from Canada and I love going to Canada, but it's like, it's always nice to come home to your country. When I go through, well, nowadays, I'm with my global entry, so I don't like really even have to talk to anybody. But when I used to go through and they'd say, "Welcome home, ma'am," that was a highlight. I was happy to be home. So travel to me just expands your knowledge base. I can't tell you how many times it connects you to people. Like I looked at the picture you put up. That was me in Myanmar. I was in Myanmar helping kids it wasn't even an orphanage. It was just very, very poor children that we went out and we pooled our money together so that we could go and buy them rice and eggs and staples for their family. And then of course, then we picked up the candy and the Coca-Cola and, all the kind of fun things like that. So it really connects you with people, and I can go anywhere and probably talk about, such a variety of things because I have been well-traveled. And how it connects with my business, I will tell you, I was in, I think I was in Spain, and I'm looking up going, oh my gosh, look at that HVAC system. I'm now in this business. So now I'm actually kind of focused in, I look at a lot of different systems that we have, like when we were in China, like the solar systems, and it intrigues me how people survive on electricity and different things in India. You look at the wiring messes and you're like, oh my God, how do you even live through this? So I guess to me, it just connects on so many different levels.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a great example too of what you focus on expands.
Yep.
Right. I remember when I used to sell Cutco knives, and I'd go to friends' parties and I would see this set of knives in the corner and I'd be like, oh dude, like your parents own these knives? Like what the heck's that about? They need to get better knives in their house. But what you focus on expands. And so what you've created and what you're doing within the women in HVACR, being an ambassador for women there with LadyTitans as well, and then also as a member of the advisory board with Service Nation, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that and focus on that. So can you tell us a little bit about your role within those organizations and how you're really leading and mentoring a lot of women within the trades?
Sure. So my mentoring of women goes way back. So when I was with McDonald's, I started mentoring women when I was probably a supervisor within the company. And it never ended. Becoming a franchisee, we had the Women's Operator Network, where it was women in McDonald's, and we had like 650 some members. So I immediately, the minute I stepped into this trades, I'm like, oh, there's not a ton of women in there. And the women that I have met, they are like so powerful. They can handle anything. So women in HVACR, that was really my first introduction. And I ended up going to a conference about 3 years ago, met some amazing leaders in this industry right now. I'm thinking of Angie Snow from Western, Crystal from McWilliams and Sons, who now has Lemon Seed Marketing, Colleen Keyworth, Online Access. These were the women that immediately reached out to me and said, hey, welcome with open arms. And so for women in HVACR, we just wrapped up a phenomenal conference down there in Florida. And it's all about getting away, learning, growing, mentoring. I have a new mentee that I have just started working with. We're going to get together, do some phone calls on a regular basis to see how I can mentor her. I have had women ask me, can you help mentor me? And my door is open, my phone's on. So women in HVACR, it's amazing to me because you have you have people that are technicians, you have suppliers, distributors, which is a little bit different than just owners and women in the trades. And I love that blend because you can all work together with them. And so when we do a conference, they have a phenomenal board of women that put together this type of conference. Great speakers, great mentorship, great leadership. And it carries over. And so then when we take a look at the scholarship ability that people can learn and go to school and have, tools paid for and schooling paid for. I mean, that just touches me where I want to do scholarships in my local community, just learning from them. They have an ambassador program that we are just starting to roll out. Since COVID and the schools were closed, we couldn't really get into the schools, but I'm lining up now schools that when I can go and have a really nice professional presentation as to why you want to be in the trades. We have got to start these folks. I mean, it's like junior high. High school, some of them are all set. We need to get junior high. We need to get them set. We need to explain, hey, you don't need to have college loans like crazy when you can be making, so much more money and have the ability to, be a business person. So mentoring with women in HVACR, phenomenal organization. I know Colleen Keyworth, she is going to be the president in this upcoming year. So she's going to have a great group of folks working with her. Then we kind of take a look at LadyTitans. I'm newer to that group. And I will tell you, we love Service Titan. And my office manager, who I've mentored her for 5 years, she's amazing. She makes me look good every single time on whatever it is we do. She's quite a bit younger than myself, so she's up and coming, and we're going to get her to all different types of level within the trades. But the thing with her, we go ahead and we put together a lot of different programs and things where we can help women. So Advisory Board 80, which is with Service Nation Alliance, we have about 135 women. Every day I'm like, oh, we have more women. That group's a little bit different because that group is owners. There are not distributors or suppliers. You have to be a member of Service Nation Alliance, but it's a lot of the folks that run our offices. So it's your CSR, your dispatchers, it's your office managers. These are the women that get things done. I mean, they are the ones that you need a form, you need a process, you need help with anything. You throw out an email and you're going to get so many responses. And then once a week, we get on a call together every Thursday and we talk about, that's where we would have different folks come in and, present. And then LadyTitans, again, we started working with Service Titan through my office manager. She was the one that said, man, we need to get on this program. I'm like, oh, okay. So phenomenal program. We joined LadyTitans. Sarah, Amy, that whole crew, they are amazing. We had a Service World Expo in Kentucky. We took AB80 girls, we took women in HVACR, and we took LadyTitans, and we just had a big meeting. And you want to talk about power in that room? From then, a lot of friendships. And it's not just about a bunch of ladies getting together. It is the amount of information that is shared so that every single one of them can have the confidence to go out and be successful in whatever area they're in. If they work for Service Titan and they're corporate, if they are an owner of a business, if they're a CSR, and giving them tools, resources, mentoring. So that's one of the things that it's been very near and dear to my heart that I will continue to do it for a very long time.
I love that. So there you go. If you have women in your office, which you should, in any capacity, get them involved in these organizations, get them connected to these people, because there's so many resources out there that can help them grow and develop, and also aspire for more within the trades and see that there is more for them to do than simply answer the phone, which is such a key role. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diminish that role, but there's lots of room for advancement within that to be an office manager, to be an owner themselves one day.
Yep.
So I think the more that you connect them with other people, the better it's going to be for your organization and for them as an individual.
100% agree with that.
I would absolutely say I would start with women in HVACR, and
Yeah.
especially if you have someone that wants to go to school, or you can get them into a technical school, apply for a scholarship. When these women go to these conferences, they get honored on stage. They get suppliers donate. They get such a great bag of tools. I'm like, man, I need to go back to school myself, because they walk away with unbelievable tools and equipment just to give them the success that they need to get started, and such a huge support system. And, that's really what it's all about. We can go out on the golf course and, do different things for charity, but at the same point in time, we are absolutely talking about the business. One of the compliments I really took to heart was when we were in Kentucky. I was standing in a line getting a book signed, and a gentleman turned around and he said to me, "I know who you are." And I'm like, "Really?" I was doing some speaking, so it's like my face was kind of plastered in quite a few places. And he said, "You lead that women's group." And I said, "Oh, Advisory Board 80. And he says, "Yeah, my daughter listens every week. And every week I ask her, what did she learn and what's going on?" And to me, that just said it all. So here's dad owns the business. The daughter is trying to make, changes, advancements, and everything else. And he's checking with her every week to see what our group is discussing, because we will give out so much information. He knows that he can move his business along based on just the knowledge we discuss together.
No, I love that. And, you mentioned a few things in there, and I do want to take a moment, because you said if anybody wants to reach out for mentoring, to obviously have reach out to you. So we will drop your email, Lori@eaglepipemechanical.com. We'll put these in the show notes after as well. But if you want to also have a phone call with her at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, maybe not 3 a.m. She might not like those phone calls, but 360-316-6065. And we also have the Women in HVACR.org website. I am actually getting the website info from Sarah Pellet right now. So I'll drop that once I have that from her. She just said it's a horrible link. Away they go from there. So I will get that pulled up and shared for after that. But I want to come back to one of the things that you mentioned. You're talking about being in schools, right? Doing presentations. And we hear this from people quite frequently, and not just in the HVAC industry, but trades all around, right? There's a lack of talent. There's a lack of people. And some people are saying that. Some people are like, I have no issues getting people into my business, right? Because they're getting out there and doing the outside the box thinking, right? I mean, you go back to your McDonald's, and not to say that you need to do this in the HVAC space, but you did international recruiting and bring people over and help them out in the McDonald's business. But I want to talk a second about recruiting, because I think it is important, and because what you're doing is something that I think a lot of businesses can do. So walk us through some of the things that and this, I know it's a broader scope of attracting females into the trade themselves, but I'm sure that you've leveraged some of that for your own business as well, and getting the help that you need for what you guys do. So what are some things that you guys are seeing on the recruiting front to getting great people into your organization?
So I always say we don't like to steal people, but I was recruiting at Home Depot last week. And 3:00 today, I have an interview with a gentleman. I go in, I'm like, I need a leaf blower. I'm like, okay. The nicest young man ever walked up to me. And I'm telling you, right from the start, whether he answered my questions, I asked him about something totally different. Finally, I said, besides working here, I said, are you in school? What do you do? And he's like, I'm actually trying to become an electrician. I'm like, oh, good for you. And, we had our little union conversation, my thoughts on the union, his thoughts on the union. And I said, if you ever are looking for a job, here's my contact information. And I'll tell you, this is how progressive some of these women are. So my office manager, it's Pop Taps. It's POPTAPS.com. So I have it right on my phone. So all I have to do is take my phone and touch your phone, and all of my information comes on. I'm thinking, for my age, I'm thinking this is really cool. So this young man, I'm like,
it's the 2021 business card.
I know it is. So, it just goes on the bottom of your phone and you just touch it. And next thing, he's got my Facebook, my LinkedIn, all my stuff. And so nothing happened. About 3 weeks later, all of a sudden I had a text message from a gentleman by the name of Levi. He goes, I'm a friend of Howard's. So I said, oh, okay. So I interviewed Levi. Last 2 days, he's doing ride-alongs with my guy. I don't always make the decision. I will interview and I will check for attitude and did they show up for work on time? Can they figure out what a crescent wrench is? Tools, do they know this stuff? But what I want them to do is I want to see how they fit in with our culture. So I put them in a vehicle and I will send them out to spend the day. And then I'll get all the feedback, because then they're not with me on a professional interview. What did they do when they showed up at the customer's home? And, we just say, hey, he's coming along for a ride along. Well, after I sat down with Levi, all of a sudden the gentleman I started recruiting from Home Depot, he called me. He says, wow, this sounds like a phenomenal opportunity. I'm like, hey, let's do an interview. So I'm doing one with him today. That is just one way. I mean, we are doing all kinds of things. We're, geo-fencing around, warehouses and all kinds of things. We're doing it even when we talk about veterans and military. We have a lot of military out in our area. We're putting it around the bases. I have one young man who works for me who he is still in the military, but he has, I would like to say, discretionary time depending upon what happens when, the boats come in and everything else. So what we're doing is he calls in and says, hey, I have an open day today. And guess what? This guy is so sharp. We are going to work with him on his schedule. We are going to make sure that he has the ability that when he gets out of the service next November, he should be trained and ready to go. So, those are a couple different ways. The other thing is, like I said, it's been a real challenge. We haven't been able to get into a lot of schools, but my plan is I want to go and we have a whole presentation that really talks about kind of what I would say the roles and responsibilities as you get into what you're going to be doing in the trades. I always like to give people the choice. Are you service-based? Are you mechanical-based? Are you looking at install? We have some guys, they're not quite sure. I'm like, hey, we're going to put you on gas piping and see how you like it. So we kind of move around. Of course, they all want our prevailing wage jobs when we do commercial, but those don't always happen. But my point is, when you go in, and whether you're talking to junior high, senior high, college students, it's making sure they understand you're an essential worker. And what just took place in our countries over the last couple of years, every day I go, man, am I glad I'm in this industry. And you have to think of it as, it's not sexy. It's not that glamorous, like, oh, I'm going to be covered in whatever because I've been in a crawl space all day. But at the end of the day, you take a look at the amount of money you can make, the amount of benefits that we provide, the training, the development, and it takes you somewhere if you want to be a business owner. So I think so much of it is getting out there. It's not just Indeeds and Craigslist and, just out there. Word of mouth. People understand if you have good culture, they want to come work for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think HVAC is sexy. I mean, we could put out a calendar maybe, and we'll put Gil Cavey Jr. on the cover. But
there you go, Gil. Make sure you tag him with this part at the 44-minute mark. 44-minute mark. But like a couple things that you mentioned. Actually, to rewind one quick second, we do have the Lady Titans servicetitan.com/LadyTitans is the link that you're going to want to look at for that. But to go back to, the ride-alongs, right, and the culture part of things, we've had a lot of great guests on the show in the last little while that have talked about the culture that they have and that they've created, and how do you maintain that culture? And Evan and I came from our Cutco, the other one Best Version Media. The companies that we were working for had these great cultures, and that was what their organization was built off of, and people thrive on that. But when you're sitting in front of an interview with the hiring manager, the person on the other side of the desk that's applying for the job will say anything, right? But when they're with a peer, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be more natural, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to see how that peer interacts. They're going to see the day-to-day operation. So if you have somebody that, I like that you go to the ride along for, different scenarios for different individuals in terms of where they're at, but like such a genius thing that I think a lot of people miss is this concept of a ride along. Because sure, okay, your tech that's doing the day, their efficiencies might not be as high that day when they have somebody with them. But if that person is a fit for your organization, think of the camaraderie that they just built by spending an entire day with somebody if they're interested in being into the business, right? Key thing, not a lot of people do that, so I'm glad to hear that you do it.
That's a little McDonald's trick, because we would call it OJE, on the job evaluation. So, and we would do it for potential franchisees. So I could be a operations manager working corporate with McDonald's, and my boss would say, hey, we've got a potential franchisee. We want you to work with this individual. So I'd be like, okay, 5 a.m., meet me at the local McDonald's. And did they get there at 5 a.m.? At about 2 o'clock, when they're just dragging, I'm like, oh no. We have to clean the lobby, and then we're going to go clean the bathroom. And if they even flinched, I'm like, oh no, they're probably not necessarily a good candidate. Yeah, we cut them some slack, especially if they were like a banker thinking, oh, I want to own all these McDonald's and make all this money. It's like, no, that is not what we were built on. And so I kind of carried a lot of that over. I had a gentleman yesterday. It was so weird for us to have a tornado up here. Like that just doesn't happen. And when I was on the phone with you yesterday talking about, I was on the ferry. Yep. About 2 hours later, they had a tornado come through in our area. So one of the gentlemen, he was brand spanking new. He came in at 8 o'clock. He did his ride along with one of my guys, and it's like, oh my God, there's a tornado. It's like, find shelter. That just doesn't happen in our area. So because it was kind of a unique day, we gave them another opportunity today. So at the end of it, I will sit down with my service tech and say, hey, how'd you do? And I'll go through kind of a series of questions. Did he get there on time? Does he know tools? How was he with the customer? But again, those are little tips and tricks. I always want to work on my business. I work in my business, but it's more important for me to work on my business. And that's how I can work on my business, by taking that information and making it come to life. And so, that's a challenge. So many people are so deep in the weeds, they can't see what else they need to do. And right now, capacity, that's every day, 24/7. What do we have to do to get the right people, get them trained? Because I know I can triple my business as I sit here.
No, it's about getting the right people on the bus, and then getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. Quick technical question, just because I want to make sure that we give the right information out. So when you're bringing that person in for a ride along, are you hiring them and paying them for that ride along day, or are they still an applicant at that point?
I am paying them, but they are still an applicant. I do not hand over that until we get through, but I always pay them. I do not have anybody do any work. I mean, you could get a whole bunch of free labor that way, but we don't do that. That's illegal. We can't do that.
So that, I just wanted to make sure we had that caveat out there for anyone that was thinking, oh, this is a great way to get some people in here.
No,
you got to make sure you're doing it right. Talk to your accountant, do all that fun shit, all the boring shit that nobody wants to do. Go do it, just to make sure you're protected. Because certain states, I know, and certain jobs too, if you're literally just having them follow you, there's a certain hour increment that you can have them follow you for the day before you have to pay them, versus not pay them because they're still an applicant. So talk to your accountant, find out what's allowed for your area. But that is a fantastic tip, and I really love it.
Yeah, we can do like up to $600. So even if it's a couple days, and we certainly will pay them good wages, what they're worth. But yeah, then we pay them at the end, and then we make a decision. So
Yeah.
works
When you
well.
think about that, some people might be thinking like, "Oh, fuck, I got to spend more money on hiring." Well, no, hiring costs a lot of money. Like,
Well,
there
and
was somebody that I can't remember who exactly in one of the groups was like, "I have a $5,000 personal referral bonus if they stay. If you
oh,
bring somebody into the business and they stay for 30 days, so they're an employee for 30 days, I will give you $5,000, referral bonus to bring on an employee." Right. So what's that employee, worth to you?
Mhm.
How much revenue is that going to potentially increase your business, and how much? And then you can break that down into your nets to say, okay, well, how much more am I going to make from that employee? So there's some other factors that go involved into not just that cost of the day, but the overall recruiting component of hiring people, right? And
well,
you
and
don't want to
if
you don't want you I mean you want to try to eliminate the wrong mistakes, right? Because it costs money to be able to do that. And so this ride along is a vessel to be able to help reduce those hiring mistakes. And you're still going to get them, I'm sure, but they're greatly reduced because now they understand the culture from the very get-go from somebody
right.
that's not the hiring manager.
Well, and if you think it's expensive to hire someone that's good, try hiring someone that's bad
Mhm.
is
Yes.
far more expensive. So that extra couple $100 to make sure that they're the right person, so worth it in the long
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, and you can run out when you look at compensation packages. That's huge. One of the things is, especially now, everybody should be doing their annual success planning. That is
Hmm.
huge. So I'm going to a marketing meeting in Lufkin, Texas. I can hardly wait. We are going to go through marketing 2022, and we're preparing now. So in addition to marketing, it's the whole financial, it's the whole compensation, it's planning for your capacity, so how many people. If I want to do 5 million next year, I need to know exactly how many people I need to get in the door now, be training, be developing, and breaking out, because we break out by divisions, and then you can put in dollar amounts. So is this service tech going to pull in 300,000 for the year? And if he's not, what's he costing me? Is he going to cost me $90,000 to pull in 300,000?
Right.
And that can all be done ahead of time. So you do have a plan as you're going into the new year.
Well, and that's a key thing, right? I mean, I asked the question on my Facebook, I think yesterday, Monday, have you hit your 2021 goals? And a lot of people have. My follow-up question is going to be, okay, well, have you planned your 2022 yet? Right? Like we're in the beginning of November, and I mean, some businesses are getting together, and some businesses do in December as they analyze what happened in 2021. But it's a key thing to look at all of those annual things to be able to forecast that, right? Like I was listening to a podcast this morning. It actually had Rob Dyrdek on it. I don't know if you know who Rob Dyrdek is, Evan or Lori. He was a skateboarder, right? He had a great show. Like 60% of the MTV programming is actually his show. Which is nuts. But he was talking about the biggest shift for him wasn't what his next year was. He's just like, what's my 100-year plan? How can I create a generation of things? Like it's my generational wealth. It's my generational legacy for my family. And when you add those in and you plan for those things, that's what's going to really help your business to the next level. On that. And so with your annual success planning, is that part of one of the groups that you're on, or is that part of, people that are within the industry? How did you stumble upon that?
So I had always done one in all my businesses with McDonald's, because we would get kind of a heads up like, oh my gosh, you have to buy new grills next year. Oh my God, 20,000 a grill, whatever. So kind of started there. As I open up different businesses as an entrepreneur, I better have a business plan. I've been fortunate enough that I didn't have to finance my last two businesses, but because I could self-finance them. But it was a series of learning. Pandora, we did annual business planning, but Service Nation Alliance, or part of Service Roundtable, they actually have a presentation that they do. We go every year. So the first year I went, it was like, oh, okay, learn new things, because I am constantly learning about this industry because I'm so new to it. And then the second year, because of COVID, we did Zoom, and then it kind of hit home. Now we're going to go to Dallas to Service Nation's headquarters. We'll spend 2 days. It's the one time my office manager and I get on a plane, and those days are strictly focused on planning. When we come back, we have kind of the bones of the plan, kind of where we're headed. Then I meet with my entire team. And so we ask them, we go through the SWOT analysis. What do they think? They have so many amazing ideas. They really help us get to where we want to go. Then we also ask them different questions like, okay, what will help you? Kind of what I did just the other day. My office manager, can I take off on Fridays and stay home and have flexibility? Absolutely. If that's going to make your life worth it and you stay home on a Friday and work from home. So that's all kind of built in. So Service Nation Alliance, they have really helped with that. Ben Stark, Chris Hunter, Trey McWilliams, all those guys teach a class that is pretty phenomenal, and it really makes you focus in on your numbers.
Yeah, but we had Ben on the show back in the spring, I believe it was. And yeah, I mean, you talk about an amazing individual, someone who's bought and sold 3 different HVAC companies. It's, yeah, when you get that kind of a mind leading that type of conversation, it's really powerful. But it's funny, the guest we had on last week, Trent Booth, one of the things that he taught me early on in my business career was, look, if you're doing any kind of planning, don't you think that any given year, it at least deserves like a couple days worth of planning? Like, you're talking about a whole year, right? Any quarter at least deserves like at least a day worth of planning, right? To make sure that you're executing and staying on top of it. Any month deserves a morning, right? You can give it half a day. Any week deserves an hour. Any day deserves 5 minutes, right? And you just break it down like that. And if you spend that little incremental time, it exponentially gets easier and easier and easier and more effective. So I really love that you're taking your sales manager and going and spending 2 days to focus on the business. Everyone says it's so hard to work on the business because I'm on the tools and I'm in the business and I'm constantly in it. Well, guess what? You signed up to be a business owner. You signed up for 2 jobs. 1, to work in the business still. 2, to work on the business. So get over it, work on the business, spend the time, right? At the end of the day.
Pay yourself well. That's what it's all about.
And even if you think about, like, a lot of people are like, okay, well, they set it's like New Year's resolutions, right? People might be thinking like, all right, I'm going to do this planning. Well, I'm not going to actually hit those goals. Why should I do the planning? At least you have a path, right?
Yes.
It's not necessarily about, okay, and there's people are wired differently. Like they set the goal and they're going to smash it out of the park because their why is tuned into their goal. And other people set the goal and they're like, okay, well, that was fun. I was going to continue to do what I do. But even if you set those goals and you continue to do what you do, guess what? You're going to have a higher level of success than the person that just flies by the seat of their pants and wings it, right? So take the time to invest in yourself and in your business to be able to do that and take that time out. Also, I just, a side note, I love the fact that you told your office manager, hey, you want to work from home on a Friday, do it. I recently read an article on Sunday about ROWE, so a results only work environment, and that's not quite the same as what you have here. But the fact of it's not necessarily all about work. Have a work-life balance to make and ensure happiness. And when you have that work-life balance to ensure that happiness and giving your staff an ability to have flexibility in their day is going to actually come back to you in dividends. So little nugget that I pulled out of that we don't necessarily need to go into a deep topic on that, but something that I thought was something that's good that you guys do.
Love it. Well, as we wrap up here, because we are coming up on 58 minutes now that we have been live and delivering value, we do have one final question here for you, Lori.
Oh, my favorite.
If there was one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't, what would that be?
How do you make it all happen?
Lori, how do you make it all happen?
I spend a lot of time working on it. I actually try to be organized. Again, I'm a lot of work in progress. I do not have all the answers, but man, I try. I start very early. I'll tell you that much. So if you set said, call me at 5 a.m., I'll be like, yeah, no problem. I'll take your call. So it's really, it's balancing. You talk about work and home life and everything else. I don't have a huge family, but I have a 91-year-old mother that I caregive for, who lives with me, who is very much still driving her car, swimming 3 days a week, making it happen. I have to figure out, I've got a 13-year-old dog. How do I get my dog out walking, keeping her going, with her leg brace and getting her stem cell? Then I'm running this company and I have all these employees. And you know what? You have to love it, because if you don't, there's no way you're going to get up every day. When I bought my first McDonald's, I got up every day going, I owe $3 million. I'm going to get my ass out of bed and get to work. 7 years later, woohoo! I don't know anything. So, there's different motivations, but at the end of it, you have to love what you do. And I do. I love this industry. I'm new to it, relatively new compared to folks that, I've got 40 years in it. I'm like, hey, business is business. But this is such an exciting time to be in HVAC. And these women that I work with on all these phenomenal groups, Women in HVACR, LadyTitans, and our advisory board 80 group, they are so strong and powerful. They make me excited every week to figure out how we can do better within our organizations and our communities.
Absolutely wonderful.
I think it's safe to say that you're loving being in HVAC.
Oh, wow. Wow. Hero weeks, folks. Hero week, folks. Tune in next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Mountain Standard, to hear Evan's comedy shtick.
No, but in all seriousness, though, like what you are doing is truly remarkable. Growing from where you've been in such a short amount of time is tremendous in terms of just running a business. What you're doing in terms of impact and leaving a legacy on women in the trades is remarkable and everlasting. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with two crazy Canadians. We appreciate that. We have a good time on Wednesdays, and we truly do appreciate your time and coming on here today and sharing some knowledge. So thank you so much, Lori.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was a pleasure. I've had fun.
Awesome.
Well, we're glad. Thank you so much. And to leave off, I know that you mentioned you do a lot of things for veterans, helping them out. Tomorrow is Remembrance Day. I know we are a day early on in how our shows today. So we will end off with a quick moment of silence for those that have sacrificed the ultimate sacrifice for us in North America on that. So please take your time tomorrow to do what you need to do to honor those members. Thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing is, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to share this. No matter what platform you're consuming this content on, hit the share button and introduce this show to others in your contacts list so they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.